Hello, today we're going to be doing the second day of solving equations from SchoolNet problems. So if you look at the first set of notes, there's actually two files on the website. If you will look at the first one that says steps to solving multi-step equations, we're going to go ahead and do this. These are the steps I would highly recommend that you follow when solving equations, especially equations that are a little bit more complicated. So the problem that we're going to be doing today on this chart is negative 2 times x plus 3 equals 4x minus 1. First step is always ask yourself, is there parentheses? If there is parentheses, you want to get rid of them by applying the distributive property. So in this case, I'm going to distribute the negative 2 with everything inside of the parentheses, okay? So negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Now everything else that I didn't touch, I'm going to just bring it down and copy it down exactly like it is. Okay? So now I did step 1. Step 2 is look at the left side of the equal sign and see if you can combine some like terms. Well, I'm going to cover the right side, okay, of the equation. And the only thing I'm going to look at is the left side. So there's my left side. Can I combine any like terms? Of course I can. The negative 6 plus 3. Well, the negative 6 plus 3 is negative 3. Everything else that I didn't touch, I'm going to bring down. Okay? And that includes the right side. Now, next step. Right side of the equal sign, combine like terms if possible. So let me cover the left side this time. And there's the right side. Do I have any like terms? No, I don't. So I can move on. So do I have to write anything in that step? Not necessarily, or you can just copy the same information over just so you can remember that, hey, there's nothing to combine on the right side. So basically, I just skipped the step. Moving on to step number 4. Variables on both sides? If yes, then jailbreak one of the variables to the other side. I do have variables on both sides of the equal sign, so I have to decide, do I want to move the 2x over here, or do I want to move the 4x over here? My recommendation is move the variable that will give you a positive number. Try not to deal with negative numbers if you can. So in that case, I'm going to jailbreak the minus 2x to the other side so it can become positive 2x. Okay? So 4x plus 2x is 6x. Bring down your equals, bring down your minus 1, and then bring down your negative 3. So I'm left with negative 3 equals 6x minus 1. Now, step 5. Jailbreak the constant. Move the number without the variable away from the variable. Okay? So they're telling me to move the number that doesn't have a letter. So that will be the plus 1. So I'm going to jailbreak the plus 1 to the other side to become a plus 1. So negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. Bring down your equals, bring down your 6x. Now, last step. Jailbreak the coefficient. Move the number near the variable away from the letter. So the number near the variable will be the 6. So I got to jailbreak that. What's the opposite of multiplying by 6? Dividing by 6. So that means I'm left with x equals negative 2 over 6. Now, of course, this is a valid answer, but 99.9% of the time, your answers will be simplified. So let's go ahead and simplify this answer. And of course, negative 2 over 6 simplifies to negative 1/3. Okay? So my answer is x equals negative 1/3. And as you can tell, if you follow these steps, it makes it a lot easier to be able to solve these equations. So using these steps, let's go ahead and solve a couple math problems, specifically a couple of SchoolNet problems. So on the next file on that website under day 4.2, you'll be able to find the following problems that I'm about to work out. So let's start with number 1. What value of x makes the equation below true? So, okay, they want me to solve it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to rewrite this problem to the side, and hopefully I'll have some space, enough space, to be able to work it out. So 15 minus 5 times 2x minus 7 equals x minus 4 plus 3x. Okay, so remember, step 1 says parentheses. If there's parentheses, get rid of them. There is. So let's get rid of it. Now, when you're getting rid of these parentheses, am I multiplying by 5 or am I distributing negative 5? Well, of course, you want to make sure that you distribute negative 5, because remember, if the sign is in front of the number, it belongs to that number. So this minus is in front of this 5, so it belongs to that 5. So when I distribute, I need to make sure that I distribute a negative 5. So now what's the negative 5 times 2x? Negative 10x. Now what is a negative 5 times a negative 7? Positive 35. Now that I got rid of the parentheses, I will bring everything else down that I didn't touch. So for example, the 15, the equal sign, the x minus 4 plus 3x. Now, step 2, look at the left side and combine like terms if possible. Okay, so let me look at the left side. Can I combine any like terms? I can. I can combine the 15 plus the 35. So 15 plus 35 is what? That's 40, 50. So that will be a positive 50. And then bring down your minus 10x. Bring down your equals. And now bring down the other side that you didn't do anything with at the moment. Okay? Next step. Right side of the equal sign. Combine like terms if possible. Okay, well, let's look at the right side. Can I combine any like terms? I can. I can combine the x plus the 3x. Now remember, if there's no number in front of a variable, it's implied to be a 1. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 1 there just to help me, just to make it a little bit easier. So 1x plus 3x is 4x. Now I'm going to bring down the minus 4 that I didn't do anything with, bring down your equals, and now bring down your left side. Okay, done with that step. Moving on to the next one. Variables on both sides. If there is, move one to the other side. And remember, like I said, try to move the variable that will give you a positive number. Try to avoid negative numbers if you can. So in that case, I'm going to move the minus 10x so it can become a plus 10x. That way, I can get a positive variable. So 4x plus 10x is 14x. So now I'm going to bring down the minus 4, bring down the equals, bring down the 50. Now I have this left as my equation. And the next step says jailbreak the constant. So I want to move the number without the letter. So that means it's the minus 4 becomes a plus 4. So I'm left with 50 plus 4 is 54 equals 14x. Okay, and the last step, jailbreak the coefficient. So I'm basically moving the number beside the variable away from the variable, okay? So, what's the opposite of multiplying by 14? Dividing by 14. So I'm left with x equals, what is 14 divided by, what is 54 divided by 14? At this point, I would recommend that you use your calculator. So that's what I'm going to do. If you type in 54 divided by 14, you will automatically get a decimal, 3.85. But if you notice, all of your answers are in fraction form. So I need to convert that decimal into a fraction. So remember, you click math, enter, and it gives you your fraction, which is 27 over 7. So my answer is C. Okay. Any questions? If you have any questions, let me know the next day in class. Okay, moving on to problem number 2. Now, because I ran out of space, I'm going to rewrite problem number 2 on a separate sheet of paper, okay? So problem number 2 says, what is the value of x in the equation negative times 1 minus x equals negative 2 times 3x minus 1? Okay, so there's my problem. So let's see if we can solve it using the steps. Step 1, parentheses. If there's parentheses, get rid of them. This time we do have 2 sets of parentheses, so we're going to have to apply them twice. Now right here you have a negative. There's no number here. You could put a 1 because it's applied to be a 1. That way it'll be easier for you to distribute that number. So negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 times negative x is positive 1x. Okay? Now bring down your equal sign. Now I'm going to distribute the negative 2 with the other parentheses. So negative 2 times 3x, negative 6x. Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. Okay, so now look at the left side. Any like terms that I can combine? Nope. So skip that step. Next step. Look at the right side. Any like terms that you can combine? Nope. Move on to the next step. Variables on both sides. I do have variables on both sides. So I need to decide which one I want to move. Well, this time I'm going to move the 6x, the negative 6x over here to become a positive 6x. That way I can get a positive variable. Okay, so 1x plus 6x, 7x. Bring down your equals, bring down your 2, bring down your minus 1, and make sure you put a plus in between the negative 1 and the 7x. Okay, now next step, jailbreak the constant. So I want to move the number that doesn't have the letter. Okay, so that will be the minus 1. So I'm going to jailbreak the minus 1 over here, so that becomes a plus 1. So that means I'm left with 7x equals, what is 2 plus 1? 3. Now, finally, the last step. Jailbreak the coefficient. So I want to move the number that's beside the letter. So in this case, it's 7. If I'm multiplying by 7, the opposite is to divide by 7. So x equals 3/7. So let's see what answer choice that is. 3 over 7 is answer choice D. Awesome. Okay, moving on to question number 3. The following formula can be used to convert a temperature in degrees Fahrenheit to a temperature in degrees Celsius. So they give us the formula C equals 5 over 9 times F minus 32. What temperature in degrees Fahrenheit is equal to 25 Celsius? So they're telling me that C equals 25. So with that being said, couldn't I take out the letter C in our formula and put 25 in its place? Yeah, we could. So that means it's 25 equals 5 over 9 times F minus 32. Now, the reason I did that was because I'm trying to convert Celsius into Fahrenheit. So that means I need to plug in Celsius so I can be able to find the letter F. So now, first thing I need to do according to my steps is get rid of the parentheses. So I need to distribute the 5/9 with everything inside the parentheses. Now, remember I told you that anytime you have a fraction, go ahead and change it into a decimal. Let's go ahead and change it and see what happens. Well, if you change 5/9 into a decimal, it gives you a really weird, not finite decimal, which means it doesn't stop. And we really don't want to mess with decimals like that. The only time we want to convert fractions into decimals is if the decimal is nice and finite, it stops, it doesn't go on forever, okay? So in this case, that's not the situation. So the best option we have is to just leave it as a fraction. So let's distribute 5/9, okay? Times F gives me 5/9 F, and then let's do 5/9 times negative 32. Well, if you do 5/9 times negative 32, you will get some weird decimals. So go ahead and make sure you convert it into a fraction if you're using your calculator, and you get negative 160 over 9, okay, after you convert it into a fraction, equals 25. And yes, it is okay to use your calculator on a problem like this, because chances are, if they were to give you a problem that involved fractions like this, in the non-calculator active part, it should come out to be with whole numbers, so it won't be too complicated. But if it was something that's complicated as this, you will definitely have a problem like that under the active part. So now, step 2, look at the left side, see if you have any like terms. Nope, no like terms. Next step, look at the right side and see if you have any like terms. No like terms. Moving on. And then variables on both sides. Nope, I only have a variable on one side. Moving on to the next step. Jailbreak the constant. Okay, I can do that. So I'm going to jailbreak this number over to the other side, and that becomes a plus 160 divided by 9. Okay? So with that being said, I'm going to do 25 plus, and make sure you put in the fraction correctly, 160 divided by 9, and make sure you convert that into a fraction, and you're left with 385 divided by 9 equals 5/9 F. Now, remember, to get rid of this fraction, you got to multiply by 9. That will be the next step, get rid of the coefficient. So I need to get rid of the fraction first. So I need to multiply by 9. So this is gone, this is gone. When you multiply this 9 times this fraction, you actually end up simplifying the 9s, so they go away. And really, you're just left with 385 equals 5F. Now, if you don't believe me, you could always type it into your calculator so you can see 9 times 385 divided by 9. And there you go, 385. The 9 should go away. Now, if you're multiplying by 5, the opposite is to divide by 5. So you're left with F equals, what is 385 divided by 5? Well, I don't know. Let's find out. 385 divided by 5 gives you 77. So my answer is D, 77. So 25 Celsius is actually 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? And finally, let's go ahead and do the last problem. What is the value of x in the equation below? So this time I'm going to rewrite the problem on a separate sheet of paper because I ran out of space. And let's go ahead and start. Now, anytime you have a fraction like this is a special fraction. Anytime you see a fraction like this, go ahead and get rid of the fraction. That's the first thing. I know in our steps we have parentheses as the first step, but technically there is special cases, and that special case is when we have something like this. So if you ever see a fraction like this, I'm not talking about like regular fractions like 1/2 or 1/3 or 3 plus 4 over 4, something like that. Those are not special fractions, okay? This is a special fraction. Anytime you see something like this, go ahead and do cross multiplication. So go ahead and put a 1 under this 6x so it can become a fraction and cross multiply. So what do I mean by cross multiply? This is what I mean by cross multiply. This 2 times 3x minus 1 or minus 7 times 1, and then do 5 times 6x. Cross multiplication. You see, it looks like a cross. So let's start. What is 5 times 6x? 30x equals. Now, what is this entire thing times 1? That entire thing. It doesn't change anything. Okay? So you see, got rid of the fraction. So anytime you have a special fraction, go ahead and make sure that you have both fractions on both sides. And if you need to, you can add a 1 under a statement if you need to make it into a fraction, and then cross multiply. But remember, it only works if you have a fraction equals a fraction. And in this case, we had a fraction equals a variable, so we could easily have changed that variable into a fraction, which we did. So now we can continue with our steps. Step 1, parentheses. Yes, there is. So let's get rid of it. 2 times 3x, 6x. 2 times negative 7, negative 14. Bring down your equals, 30x. Now, step 2, left side. Are there any like terms? Nope. Right side, any like terms? Nope. Variables on both sides? Yes. So let's jailbreak the 6x over to the other side. So that becomes a minus 6x. So you're left with 30x minus 6x is 24x. Then bring down your minus 14. Next step, jailbreak the constant. There's nothing to move around with the constant, so we're good to go. And then the last step, jailbreak the coefficient. So that means I need to jailbreak the 24. If you're multiplying by 24, the opposite is to divide by 24. So you're left with x equals, what is negative 14 divided by 24? Well, you could do that in your head or you can use your calculator. I'm going to go ahead and show you your calculator so you can be able to understand how to do that if a problem like this pops up on the active part. So negative 14 divided by 24. Automatically, this calculator is going to give it to you as a decimal. Let's go ahead and convert it to a fraction, and it will automatically give it to you in a simplified form. So your simplified version of negative 14 over 24 is negative 7 over 12. Now, if you look at your answer choices, your answer is A. Now, remember, follow these steps and it will make solving these problems a lot easier. If there's any further questions, please do not hesitate to ask me in class the next day. Other than that, I will see you tomorrow.